Hey everybody, thanks for coming. This is the Dream a Little Dream Dev with the CLI lightning quick flash talk. So this is my only slide. I made it this morning because I realized I probably should have something about who I am up here. So I'm Kayla. I'm a senior dev advocate here at Microsoft. Before being an advocate, I was the PM for Windows Terminal. So I am big on Terminal, all things CLI. And then also I do a little bit of Copilot stuff and VS Code things as well. And then my handle's just there if you want to ask me questions after or anything like that. But this is all I have for my slides. So we're just going to demo everything CLI and kind of talk about how you can go from 0 to hero with building with Copilot CLI. So here I have just my terminal set up with CLI already open. It's not showing. How is that possible? Duplicate. I swear I hit this earlier. How about now? Yeah, weird. Okay, all right, let me know if anything else happens. Also, let me know if my font is too small or too big because the text takes up a lot of screen. But great, so here I am, I'm in Terminal, and I've already installed Copilot CLI with Winget, and then I just ran Copilot, and then I logged in, and I'm here, and I'm in a project that I scaffolded already that we're gonna build hopefully in the next 20 minutes. So the scaffolded project is gonna be this to-do sweeper, which will take a repo and then look for everywhere where it says comment to do or like comment fix me, because we've all done that where we just leave things behind for later and then we forget that they're there. So this is a great way of addressing that. So the first thing you want to do, well, actually the first thing that I'm going to do here is change my model. So by default, Copilot CLI uses auto for the model, which you can see your model down here on the bottom right. And auto will give you a 10% discount, and then it automatically picks which model to use based off your task. Woo. Based off your task, the real-time system health, and also model performance. So you might get a different model for every prompt that you give it, just depending on what task you're asking for. For this session, I want to use a lightweight model like Claude Haiku, because I need this to go pretty quickly because we only have like 20 minutes. But the model picker in CLI has models from Anthropic, so your Claude models are there, your OpenAI GPT models are here. There's also some Google Gemini ones, the Kimi models are here as well, and then also some Microsoft ones like MAI Code 1 Flash. So lots of models to pick from, which is great. We're gonna go with Claude Haiku 4.5. And then I'm also going to put this into YOLO mode, which enables all tool permissions. So it will traditionally ask you like, oh, can I write to this file? Can I access this website? Can I do all this stuff? And it's a little annoying, but it's great for like knowing what your agent's doing. But for the purposes of the demo, I'm just gonna run YOLO, which enables all the permissions. And then since I'm in a new repo, I'm going to run /init, which will create a Copilot instructions file. So this is a markdown file that's usually in your project, or you could put it in your .copilot on your user as on your machine. And it tells Copilot how to behave in your repo. So /init will analyze your repo's code and look for architecture or styling or formatting or your color schemes, for example, anything like that, and then author a Copilot instructions file so that every time you give Copilot a prompt, it's going to reference that file rather than looking up online like, oh, what should this look like? You can have it match your existing code base, which is really nice. So /init is going to author that file, and we're going to just let this go. This is a non-deterministic demo because agents take however long. So I'm going to also open another terminal window on the right-hand side so we can look at some other commands that the CLI has to offer. Boop, over here, while this is working. So on the right-hand side, I'm just going to be showing things that might be helpful while you're working with Copilot, and the left, we're hopefully going to build this thing. Okay, it looks like I already have my Copilot instructions file because I ran this in the hotel like 45 minutes ago. And I have a skill called reset demo, which doesn't reset my Copilot instructions file. So I need to fix that skill. And we could talk about skills in a little bit too. But something to like look at that I like to talk about is context when it comes to using agents. So you can look at your context window with /context. And then you're gonna get a little display graph. Is this too small? You want me to full screen this? Can you guys see the text here? Is that okay? We're good? Okay. So this gives you a little UI of what's going on in your context window and what's filling it up. So This is gonna be a sneak peek because I wanna keep prompting on the left. So it looks like the instructions file has finished on the left, and now we're gonna plan. So let's pin the context thing, and then let's go back in here. So now we wanna build this to-do app because it doesn't do anything, or checking the to-dos, the to-do sweeper. So I'm gonna run plan mode, which I can navigate through my plans with Shift Tab. So Shift Tab puts me in plan, Shift Tab again puts me in autopilot, and then Shift Tab once more puts me in the default mode. So you can also type /plan, and that does the same thing. But I wanna plan this feature out before actually building the whole thing. So I've got a prompt that I've already authored, and I'm going to put this in, and now we're going to plan with Copilot. So what's great about plan mode is that it won't author any files to your code base. It just creates a plan.md or markdown file with what it's planning to build and the architecture and the decisions it's going to make. And this is great for working back and forth with your agent if you want to define exactly what you want, how behaviors you want, the architecture, and that sort of thing. It's also going to ask you clarifying questions. So for to-do and fix me detection, should the scanner find comments with these patterns? Or sure, capture the entire line after the keyboard. Yeah, I don't want it strict. I want it to be flexible. And I need to update my Windows build as well. So, what's great about it asking clarifying questions is if you didn't specify in the prompt ahead of time, you can have more confidence when it catches these edge cases of what the agent's going to build. Let's do language aware for comment detection. So I like using plan mode for building entirely new things. I don't particularly care about what this is gonna make, so this is okay. But usually these questions are really handy. But then you can also have it ask these questions that you didn't already specify, and then you can have a really solid confidence with your agent of what it's going to build afterwards. So this could be considered a cost-saving technique compared to if you were to just prompt like, "Hey, let's build this to-do finder," for example, and then I forgot to include like, "Oh, make sure you're searching XAML files or make sure you're searching C# files," or that sort of thing, and then I have to iterate again, and then I'm spending all these tokens to continue to iterate with my agent, whereas plan mode, the iteration's a bit lighter, and then you're more likely to have confidence in the exact thing that you're looking for with the end result once it's done. So that's plan mode. We're gonna let this make this plan. I think it said it's done with the questions, which is awesome. So we're just gonna let this build. And we can head back in and talk more about context like I teased a little bit earlier. So the /context command lets you see what's filling up your context window. And some of this you can't really do anything about, like system prompt and system tools. These are gonna come by default in the same way where when you get a Windows device, some of the memory or storage is the OS and you just can't do anything about that. That's a similar thing that's happening here. But some things that do fill up your context are gonna be your custom instructions and also your MCP tools. Also, we're gonna let this build, and I'm gonna build this, fleet. Let's build it with fleet, and then we'll talk about that once I'm done on the context thing. So things to help reduce the space in the context window, or sorry, reduce what you've used in the context window is managing your custom instructions and managing your MCP tools. So the custom instructions file that we made at the beginning is loaded every single time you open Copilot, so it's filling some of your context. The same goes for any MCP tools that you have installed. So if you have a bunch of MCP servers that you've installed in your machine, but you're not using all of them, best practice is to disable the ones that you're not using to free up some of this storage or context room for your context window. So to do that, you can run /MCP, and then you can come in and enable or disable any of the ones that you're not using, and that's going to help you manage your context as well and give you a little bit more room. Now, something that you don't see here is skills, and I have some skills that I've put in my .copilot folder. So if you're on Windows, I think the same as on Mac, but at your user root, there's gonna be a .copilot folder, and that's where all of your configuration is gonna be. So I have my MCP servers here. I also have my skills here, and then custom instructions are here too. So these skills are available for any session. So if there's something that I always do, like front-end design, for example, or if I'm using a project with Aspire, I want these all the time. You can also put skills in just your project if you have project-specific skills, like the one that I have that resets the project so I can demo it again. But skills are loaded dynamically, not always. So that's why they don't show up in this context UI, because it only gets pulled into context when that thing is happening. So when I'm doing front-end design, that's when that skill comes in. Otherwise, it's not here. So it's recommended to use skills for task-specific things or just specific scenarios. Otherwise, if you need something to always be there all the time, like styling or formatting or architecture, that sort of thing, that's when you put it in custom instructions, just to manage how much of your context window that you're using. So that's a little bit about context and MCP servers and skills. And then on the left, we're building and we're partying, and we used autopilot and we used fleet mode. So in this tab thing where I was doing shift tab and I'm switching between the modes, you can switch to autopilot mode. And this is a couple different concepts put together. So this is going to be YOLO, which I ran at the beginning, which enables all tool calls and permissions. And then it's also doing Ralph looping, or Copilot's flavor of Ralph looping, where it's going to take a look at what it built and then iterate over it again until it fully agrees that whatever it's made matches the criteria that you gave it in the prompt. So it'll continue iterating over itself, and that's where the autopilot like Ralph loop thing comes in, and that's how it's different from just /YOLO. So we're running that here on the left, just for the purposes of the demo and like moving things along. But in regular development, autopilot is more helpful for like a sandbox or if you're really secure and like where you're working, because you're enabling all tool calls and you're telling it to just go until it's done. So that's autopilot, and then /fleet is the other thing that's happening. And I wonder if I run /tasks. No, I don't see it. So fleet will kick off multiple different sub-agents at once. They're all going to work, and then they're going to come back to the main agent. So the plan had this to-do list of like 8 different things, right? So instead of doing it serially in the prompt and it taking forever, we had it use fleet mode, which assigned a sub-agent to each one. Each sub-agent gets its own context window. It's going to complete that task, and then it's going to send the summary back to the main agent and say, hey, I finished, here's what I did. So that's exactly what's happening here, is that the fleet was deployed, and now these things are being implemented in parallel rather than serially, so that we can get this built a whole lot faster. So this is still going to keep going. This is running a little bit longer than my test runs, but you never know with agents. So something else about context that we could talk about is compaction as well. So compaction, you are freeing up room in your context window, but you might lose some fidelity or some details because you've compressed it down. So you can run /compact to summarize the conversation, and you can also specify specific things you want to compact rather than the whole thing at once. So if you went on a little side quest, asked it some questions, did some other things, but it's not true to the core point of your session, you can compact just that and then just free up that room, but have all of the detail and the fidelity from the original point of your session still there. And Copilot also does auto compaction. So it is effectively infinite sessions. So it'll just compact once you start nearing this token limit. It'll just compact it down for you, which is really handy, so you don't have to worry about that. This is only if you're someone who wants to really be diligent about what's going on in your context. So it looks like our build has finished. It checked all the boxes, things have happened. I have my server already running in this other tab, so let's see what happened. Okay, we have a button. Excellent. Let's pick a folder. And then I have the Windows Terminal GitHub repo already cloned. So let's see if there's any to-dos in here. We'll see. The scanning was pretty instant the last time I ran this, but this is a whole new code base, so who knows? And it may not even work. Who also knows? Okay. Oh, awesome. Well, we're going to let this go. We might have to iterate with Copilot here, unless maybe I have to rebuild it. let's rebuild it. Let's kill the server and rebuild this whole thing. npm run build, I think. Run build. And then we'll start the server as well. Maybe it just didn't have things built. Come on, to-do sweeper. Of course it's the demo gods that are like, no, not today. Man. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep yapping and we're gonna let this just hang. I don't quite want to iterate over this because we only have about 6 minutes left. So let's pretend this works. Yay! Okay, great. Awesome. So now maybe we want to review what's going on because obviously something's not right. Okay, that's enough. So we can run, I'm gonna actually jump out of autopilot and we can run /diff. And then this is gonna give us a view of all of the files that have changed. And this is a new UI. I think the team came out with this in the last week or two, but I love it because this sidebar is so cool because it looks just like an IDE and you can click through these with the mouse or you can keyboard navigate through them. So we could see, like here's that skill that I talked about like resetting. Here's the README. Here's, you know, all the other files that it made. Here's like instructions file that we made at the beginning. And then here we can review the changes and we can also go back to Copilot and be like, hey, let's change these things or, you know, whatnot. And then once we've looked at the diff, maybe we want to do a code review. So we can run /review, and this is just going to do a regular code review, nothing really fancy about it. You can specify specific instructions. So if you wanted to look for optimizations or accessibility fixes, any of those things, you can add them in. We also have /security review, which does a specific review centered around security vulnerabilities to make sure that everything's secure and safe there. The other one that's cool that I'll have to switch models for is Rubber Duck, which you may have heard about online. So Rubber Duck is only available on larger models from Anthropic and OpenAI like GPT. So I'm going to change my model to Claude Sonnet 5. And then I can see Rubber Duck show up as a / command here. And I'm going to run this. So Rubber Duck is going to do a code review, but it's going to use a different agent or a different model, sorry, from the model that built the code. So then they can duke it out of what's the best practice, do some reviews and have kind of different eyeballs on it, if you will. And then they're going to come up with a resolution of like, here's what we've found, we as the models. And then fix any issues. So maybe this review will fix the app, who knows? But it looks like it decided to use GPT 5.6 Terra, which if you remember, we were using Claude Haiku 4.5, or sorry, yeah, 4.5. So these are from two different providers. They have two different, you know, ways of thinking, if you will. So they're going to give you a really nice holistic review of what's going on. And then I think one of the last like cool things, because this took long when I ran it earlier as well, is kind of going back to that sidebar, which is new and I love it. The sidebar works for managing your sessions. So if you hit the left arrow key, you could see the sidebar and any active sessions that you have going. So if you wanted to work on multiple things at once, rather than opening like 30 different terminal tabs where you can't see everything, this is a really nice way of doing it. So if we wanted to open another session, you can run /session, and this is going to show your sessions that you've used previously. So I don't know, this is something. I don't know what I was doing, who knows? Oh, it was this run through again. But then you can click through these. Again, it works with the mouse, but then you can manage your sessions really easily with this side panel, which is super cool. Sweet. Okay, and then let's see, this review is still going. And then I close Copilot. Okay, great. Okay, so actually I think I'm at time. So that's CLI in like a quick nutshell. I know this was super fast and that was a lot of information. So thank you for hanging on with me. If you want to hit me up, ask me any questions, want links to anything. Sorry my demo didn't work, but you know, it happens. My contact info is up there, but thank you again and have a great VS Live.